On the heels of Attorney General Jeff Sessions' decision to recuse himself from any Russia or campaign-related investigations, more contacts between Trump associates and the Kremlin's ambassador are coming to light. Fox News confirming the president's son-in-law and top aide, Jared Kushner, joined ousted advisor Michael Flynn when he met with the Russian ambassador in December. A senior White House official says it was just a 10-minute introductory meeting to set up a line of communication. Meantime, CNN is reporting 3 other men who were serving as national security advisors to Mr. Trump also met with the Russian ambassador during the Republican National Convention in July. All right, so reportedly there were other meetings that took place with those inside the Trump world. Your thoughts on this?
Well, so, Melissa was asking earlier, so what's the heart and soul? The heart and soul of the investigation, Sandra, would be if the FBI agents could find out that there was coordination between the Trump campaign and these Russian agents in an effort to influence the outcome of the election. So far, they have got nothing, or we know nothing at this point.
You wouldn't send the ambassador to do that. I mean, this is what I don't get. An ambassador is here to meet with people, right? Isn't that why you send an ambassador to a foreign country?
Oftentimes you have spies hidden in embassies.
Right. So you have a problem with all of this.
But that's not the ambassador.
You have a problem with all of this.
I don't. If I knew something, I would be in better shape. But what I'm saying is,
well, no, if everybody knew something, then we'd have evidence.
Yes,
everybody
right.
Would be in better shape.
But you must say, if you're a conscious human being at this point, you're like, why are they having all these meetings, and why are we just learning now, and why doesn't anybody? No. But
he's an ambassador.
Yeah,
that's what ambassadors do.
Correct. So then Jeff Sessions had no reason not to say, oh yeah, and guess what? I had a meeting with the ambassador.
Okay, that actually is a good point.
If Obama hadn't been trying to normalize everything with Putin for the past 10 years and let an ambassador come over here and meet with everybody, you guys wouldn't be having these problems. So maybe you should have taken Putin seriously for the past 10 years. This is your problem that you guys made, and I have no sympathy. I say this on the couch for Democrats right now who all of a sudden care about Russia, care about Putin because it's politically expedient.
Okay, so going back to the original question, is any meeting okay? And especially, I mean, as you guys are eloquently pointing out, he is an ambassador. Take a look at this photo. This is Kislyak at the joint session this week.
That's what I brought up.
When the president addressed the joint session of Congress.
Who he's sitting with?
Democrats.
He's with Democrats. So I did a little look into Sergei Kislyak. The meeting obviously took place, whatever. He's one of Russia's most direct links formerly to the Obama administration at a time when a war of words over Crimea had plunged relations between Washington and Moscow. They were in very tight contact. He's an ambassador, as Melissa has pointed out. So again, I ask for the evidence on behalf of anybody who would like the truth. What evidence is there that meeting with the man who was sitting among Democrats, what's wrong with meeting with him?
Nothing. I don't think that's the argument. Nobody says there's anything wrong on the face of it.
Okay.
The problem is, one, and I think Megan was pointing this out, he's got his own history, and the Russians have a history of recruiting people and all that. People are a little suspicious when you suddenly appear with him and you don't admit that you had the meeting.
Did you know he was going to the joint session?
No, I wouldn't.
So that seems sudden, didn't it?
No, come on. Ambassadors, in fact, there's a whole section of ambassadors.
So what you're saying is what we knew yesterday, and that is that the thing that Jeff Sessions is guilty of is that he didn't extrapolate out the details, the facts. He should have mentioned, yes, as a senior member of the Armed Services Committee, I did meet with blah, blah, blah. I'm sure that's what Claire McCaskill would say. She's had several statements on her meeting that she couldn't remember with the same Russian ambassador.
Well, it's why transparency is
so why do you
important.
believe one but not the other, I guess, is my question for you.
It's why transparency is important. It's why having great communications is important. A lot of this is muddled up. The communications on the side of the Trump administration has not been great. But going forward, if this man is nefarious, if he is, as people are implying, some kind of agent between Putin and the United States of America, he has absolutely no business sitting in front of our president, sitting with Democrats, meeting with people left and right. But this is why you have to take hard lines on issues like your relationship with murderous KGB dictators. And when you let it fly, they haven't done anything wrong. Jeff Sessions didn't do anything different than President Obama did.
But let's go back to what is normal dealings and what is not, Juan. And let's go back to what we do know, because Fox News has confirmed that Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law and top aide, did join Michael Flynn, who is now ousted, when he met with the Kremlin's ambassador in December. We know that happened. It was a 10-minute discussion, an introductory conversation. Is that a normal dealing?
Yeah, it's not abnormal for people to meet ambassadors. I mean, especially if you're an incoming administration, you're trying to develop lines of contact. What's abnormal is when I was listening to you, Sandra, read the introduction, is how many of the Trump inner circle has had regular contact with Russian officials,
well, the rest
and we never knew about it until now. Now everybody's, oh yeah, I did too, and I did too. Wait, what's going on here?
I mean, we keep seeing pictures of him everywhere. I'm starting to think maybe he was the one lucky guy at some point, this ambassador. He's everywhere.
Hey, I'm not a spy.
Megyn said that puts really a fine point on the facts, too, is that if the Trump administration, from the very beginning, when people were asking for more vetting of their cabinet-level nominees, if they had succumbed to that and done it more traditionally, some of this might have been avoided.
100%. It's a communications problem. They have communications problems, but anyway. All right, we're going to move on. Former President Barack Obama's, I could talk about this all day, we got to move on. His new home in D.C. is reportedly being set up as the nerve center for the mounting resistance against President Donald Trump. According to the Daily Mail, the Obama's longtime confidant Valerie Jarrett has even moved into the mansion to help with the effort. The paper explaining, quote, Obama's goal, according to a close family friend, is to oust Trump from the presidency either by forcing his resignation or through his impeachment. This, as former Attorney General Eric Holder reportedly says Mr. Obama is getting ready to make a public reappearance into politics by helping to fight GOP gerrymandering so more Democrats are elected. Politico quoting him as saying, it's coming, he's coming, and he's ready to roll. President Obama will be a more visible part of the effort. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. Is it weird Valerie Jarrett's moving in with them?
Look at me when you ask that question.
Because I think I know how you feel.
Grown people who want to live together, that's none of my business.
What happens between consenting adults?
I mean, where do you want me to take that?
She was in the White House as well, living in the White House for a period of time.
Different kind of a quarters.
Different kind of a quarters.
I don't know, that looks pretty castle-y.
Well, that house is fab.
It's gorgeous.
I mean,
It's a
you can
castle.
Google it.
The point is, she is his President Obama's most trusted confidant for decades. So clearly, this is sort of going to be home base, you know, whatever, ground zero
Route 6 grade.
for the resistance. But if your resistance didn't work against Hillary Clinton, why is it going to work now?
You know, it's an interesting question about what their goals are, because, you know, is it resistant totally, or are they also trying to redefine themselves as somebody who, you know, is of the people for the people? I think when you have Obama for America as your group, and then you lose 1,000 seats since you took president across state houses, the U.S. Congress, and the presidency, it gets to be the point where maybe I need some redefinition here. So it could be resistance. It could also be that.
Well, I think, remember, he's the most prominent Democrat in the country at this moment.
Very true.
He was behind Tom Perez's victory last weekend to become head of the Democratic National Committee. So I don't think there's any question that he's going to play a role. And it's not news, by the way, that he and Eric Holder, the former Attorney General, say they want to do something about the tremendous success Republicans have had at drawing congressional lines around the country to the benefit of the congressional delegation to keep Republicans in power in the Congress. We're approaching 2020. That's the time when the next lines will be drawn for Congress, and he wants to play a role. There's nothing illegitimate about that.
I just thought he was on Richard Branson's island, you know, kite surfing. I can't believe that so quickly he wants to get back involved in everything that's going on. I mean, the only reason I can think of is preservation of the legacy, that he sees things being dismantled and wants to get involved and try and do something about it. I mean, just setting up in this castle with Valerie Jarrett is really.
But wait, I don't think anybody was saying. Oh, so going back to your last words, you don't think there's anything illegitimate about that? About a former president just out of office setting up a nerve center for Trump resistance to go against the current president after he promised a peaceful transition of power and that he was going to give the guy a shot?
I think he did have a peaceful transition of power. I think President Trump has even said
6 weeks
that he thought he was treated very well. But your point is about the politics, right? And I think that, coming back to your point, President Obama, during his era, saw Democrats lose a lot of seats.
But I'm not even talking about the politics. I'm talking about there's a general level of respect for a former president.
Well, I think until he does something disrespectful, let's see it. I mean, President Bush was out this week, and President Bush.
Let me name one thing that he did that maybe would have told us that this was coming, and that's when the discussion first was brought up around inauguration of within 1 hour you'd see a repeal and replace of Obamacare. Remember what he told his political party at the time? Don't rescue the Republicans. Don't help them. You're going to need everybody on board in order to make it better for the American people. But you've got a former president saying to his party, don't participate in a positive way.
And President George W.
That's
Bush.
disrespectful.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I think
I
it's,
do.
And so was it disrespectful when you didn't have any Republicans participating in trying to craft and improve Obamacare?
You did.
I don't know. I think when it was voted, I don't think there was a Republican vote. And subsequent to that, when Obamacare, when it's had its troubles, no Republicans would
different. That's
participate.
policy.
They'd say, "Hey, listen, we think this whole thing has to
Yeah,
be
but the
gutted." Well,
problem was
now
he
look at it. Look at yourselves now, baby.
They executive ordered their way through it, President Obama. So he couldn't even lean on his own party. But we could talk after.
There is power in silence. Look at how powerful President George W. Bush's recent statements have been in the past week. You know, when he's been going on several different television shows, his statements have made international news. He had very interesting, I believe, introspective views on what it's like to be in and both out of power. And I think if you let the next president do what he's going to do, sit back and then choose your timing, it's a heck of a lot more powerful than starting in some kind of weird nerve center 6 weeks after the election. All right, a judge sparking outrage after allegedly helping an illegal immigrant escape her courtroom as ICE agents waited in the hallway. The furious reaction from law enforcement.